My standard advice for this week is
Let's move on.
educate yourself. I remember when I was a kid having two parents that came from absolutely nothing, and I would listen to my mum and dad speak about how to get ahead in life, and they always made a big deal about education. Now, a lot of it with my dad was formal education, because he didn't have that, and then because he left school early, and it was the fucking 60s, like you could, and so but then again, he didn't get a trade as well, and so that was the problem. Now, education is a few different things. It's university, trade school, apprenticeships, work experience, specialized training organizations, and self-education. And this self-education is the one I'm mainly focusing on. But there's obviously more. My advice to you is to do one of these things if it is going to get you where you need to go. But then to also educate yourself in subjects related or specifically in the field that you want to pursue, and also things that are not related to the field you are trying to pursue. And I'll give you an example. Me and Sam do this podcast, and although there are courses in media, social media, and podcasting, video production, and more, I'm not going to pay some university or TAF to teach me how to do things over a 6-month period at 1 hour a week that I can learn in a 10-minute YouTube clip and then experiment with by myself. Which is exactly what I did when I started my own first podcast. I learned how to connect the hardware, use the software, and make the podcast while I was living in China. It took me 15 minutes. But then I became self-educated, not like the best of the best, but just I became self-educated, and I continue that. And I'm still learning along the way, whether it's about the methods of doing the podcast or the content of which we talk about. It wasn't just because I hate assignment deadlines and I don't like filling out stupid tests, but that's part of it. It's also because I learn better when I'm motivated by a goal to learn and when I do it myself. And what you'll notice is that if you take something on yourself rather than being required to by a government agency, if you're on unemployment benefits, or your workplace that wants you to get more qualified, if you want to do it yourself, you will enjoy it more. You'll be motivated more. When I wanted to become a security guard, I had to go to a training organization, registered as an RTO, and learn the theory. But then when I get on the job and understand how the theory applies to the real world, I learn even more, right? But then I take it upon myself, and I did, and I still do, to ask a shitload of questions to the senior guards who have been doing this for years and decades. I glean advice and I learn context. And taking that advice and information and banking it for later is what I hope will separate me from the rest of the pack. Now I want to advance my career in security, so I need to go back to the same training organization and do another qualification. I'm also thinking about doing a counseling course in the future, which means I'll have to do another qualification. But what I'm going to do alongside that is read books on psychology, watch YouTube videos on counseling and psychology, and educate myself so I'm more knowledgeable than my peers when the time comes to get a job or start my own counseling service. Here are a few reasons to educate yourself beyond the base requirements for the qualification or role you want. This is why you should educate yourself. 1, because nobody cares that you did the bare minimum. Nobody cares that you did the bare minimum. Nobody. When people see your resume and they see that you've completed a qualification, you might be proud of that. And you might rightfully be proud of that because you have, like my parents, come from nothing and got the qualification. But when that person is looking at a resume, everybody else has also done the bare minimum. And many of them have done more. What impresses a person looking for an employee and looking at a resume is that you have a passion for the role and that you've done your research. What's the history of the industry or the company? How many books have you read on the field that you were not required to read? What else, apart from the base qualification, do you bring to the role that separates you from the rest? Right? So doing extra work, not work, but extra education is really useful when you want to impress people. And it's also good in social situations. Hold on. It's also good in social situations because then you're more educated when you say something. Number two. So number one was because nobody cares that you did the bare minimum. Number two is because you learn a myriad of things that you would never have known otherwise by reading and learning things both related to the field you're in and also bringing in things that are seemingly unrelated. And this is what I mean. I read a book on negotiation the other day, and I told you guys about it by Chris Voss. How is that related to the security industry? It's seemingly not. But then when I have to deal with angry assholes in pubs or truck drivers in a hurry to get past the guardhouse, I use the techniques that he has written about and others that I've read about and watched and learned in my own life. I use those techniques to slow them down, make them feel respected while also getting done what I need to get done. This means turning a hard ejection where we have to drag them out by their hair into a soft ejection where we talk them into having a chat with us out the front. Either way, they're coming out the front. Either way, we're having a chat. And I'm going to see if you're drunk. The question is how. And I prefer to use the techniques I learned out of books, I learned out of life, and I learned from watching smart people on YouTube, like, maybe Jordan Peterson, to solve the problem the easy way instead of solving it the hard way. Because you will solve the problem, but you'll also get a reputation for being not as good as you could have been. So number two was because you learn a myriad of things by bringing in stuff related and unrelated to the field. Number three is when you know more, you can do more, you can understand more, and you can influence more. Now, here's an example of this. When you look at the US, you might think that they made a colossal mistake in electing Donald Trump. And you might think that it was done by a bunch of alt-right racist assholes that made that happen. Then you read more and you learn more and you understand a few things. A, wages have stagnated over the last 40 years since Ronald Reagan was elected. Half of Americans don't have $500 for an emergency. C, the middle class of America was made promises they never should have believed. D, both Democrats and Republicans are as dirty in terms of money and politics as each other. E, automation, inflation, disintegration, alienation, globalization, racial accusation, you see that, all that rhyming, partisanship, condescension, broken promises, political correctness, identity politics, right? And F, he was the only candidate, and I don't like him.
Did you just go 1, 2, 3, F?
No, I said A, B, C. Dude, you don't fucking listen to me, cunt. Sorry, you don't listen to me, son, because I'm your daddy. Now, F, he was the only candidate that both said what the fuck he wanted to say without bars, without political correctness, without bullshit. He didn't seem like he was lying. Everybody knew he was lying, but that's not the point. He spoke to the people about the issues that they really cared about. And this is the point. Half of Americans don't have $500 for an emergency. The middle class was lied to. Wages have stagnated. Now, look, it's not my fault or your fault or their fault or someone's fault. It's everybody's fault that this has happened, right, in America. But that's not the point. The point is Donald Trump said, I'm going to help solve your problems. And Hillary Clinton said, 4 more years of Obama! Where political correctness was getting out of control. They wanted transgender bathrooms in every fucking toilet in America. And XYZ. Now, whether you support these issues is irrelevant. The relevant point is she was talking about, she called them a basket of deplorables. Are you fucking high right now, Hillary? Now, when you put all these things into the mix, the picture becomes a lot less about racist assholes, although there were certainly some of those. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that wasn't a part of it. That was certainly a part of it. But it becomes more about the historical context and the fact that we are still living in history and dealing with the consequences of it, rather than just watching it through the news and seeing, ooh, this terrible man in his orange hair. Yeah, he's a terrible man. He's a terrible man. I don't think he should be president, but I don't think Hillary was a good candidate either. And so the reason that he was elected wasn't because just of racist assholes. It was because that man, as much of a devil as he was, spoke to people about the shit they cared about. Now, when I have a conversation with people and they blame white men for his election, I bring up the fact that Hispanics went for Trump too, larger than they was predicted, because they don't want other illegal Hispanics coming into America and taking the bottom row of jobs they've been working their asses off to hold and make a family and a future using those jobs. Now, whether you agree with me or not is not the point. I don't care if you think I'm right or I'm wrong. I think I'm right, but of course I do, because I'm me. The point is to educate yourself, whether it's for a job, whether it's for just curiosity, because the reason I do it is curiosity. I'm very curious, right? Whether it's for conversations that you want to not look like a fuckwit inside a pub when you're talking to, geniuses. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't about Trump. I don't even like saying his name because it gives him a hard on when you do. This is about, it does. This is about not being ignorant, not resting on our laurels and thinking that we are good enough, because evolution is based around the concept of adaptability. You and I and Sam need to be adaptable. And to do that, we need to learn more. Self-education is very, very important. When you know more, you can do more. You can earn more, and you can help the people around you understand more. Done.